Owning a home gym can suck. Cast iron is expensive. It takes up an entire room. And have you ever had to ask for help moving it? But there's one material property that can solve this issue: elasticity. A resistance band weighs almost nothing, and it can pull with several times that weight. But they have a fatal flaw. If you move in line with the direction of the band, resistance changes. So when it's stretched, it pulls back more than when it's not as stretched. That means if you're trying to do traditional isotonic exercises where you move a limb and therefore a muscle through a range of motion, elastic resistance sucks. It's hardest at the top of the movement when your muscle's shortened. Now, for isometrics, elastic resistance works just fine. That's why over the past year, there's been a lot of interest in springs in the grip training community. You can simply move a spring to a set point, hold it there, and hold on. A heavy-duty expansion spring has much higher force capacity. It is much more durable than a resistance band. You can throw a few pound assembly in your backpack, go climbing, and then do a workout in the woods at the crag just by setting it up on a tree. And for working out at home, it's pretty awesome too. You simply set a stop so that you can configure exactly how much you want to stretch that spring for resistance, and you hold it against the stop. It's perfect. It's lightweight. You can get hundreds of pounds of resistance in a package that just weighs a little bit. Rather than having to take heavy plates on and off, you simply adjust a stop and you can instantly change resistance. But isometrics aren't good enough for me. I want to be able to train muscles through a range of motion. And the hack that enables elastic resistance sources, and specifically springs, to be able to replace an entire home gym is the idea of switching from moving in parallel to moving perpendicular. Instead of moving parallel with the band so that you're changing the amount it's stretched and the resistance that it fights back with, instead you move across it. It's a perpendicular motion. You can simply pull your device to its stop and move your body around it. You'll be changing your joint angle. It's like you're lifting and lowering a weight with no momentum at all. And you can even create custom resistance curves because the tension felt by your muscle will change as the angle of the strap changes relative to your joint. This enables an entirely new category of workout where you move perpendicular to the resistance source. It's what I call reverse action workouts. And elsewhere I go into the theory behind these and how they might offer advantages even over standard workouts. I've also explored movements that target 40 plus muscle groups and laid those out as a catalog here on this channel. This lets you replace a home gym or $3,000 cable tower with a simple spring and stop setup, a fraction of the price, and it enables exercise modalities beyond what weights can do. If you watch the other videos on my channel, you'll understand why this gives you something equivalent to an isokinetic dynamometer or other laboratory grade equipment. Now, before you build anything or buy a spring, if you want to test out this style of workout today, I'm going to show you how to do that right now. The key is, even with a cable machine, you want to create a constant length stop so the distance from the handle to the machine is a constant length. That way, if you're trying this with a resistance band, you'll keep the resistance constant. But if you're using a cable stack, this prevents the weight on the stack from bouncing up and down, which introduces inertia and momentum. You could get a simple piece of cord. You don't have to pull hard against the stop. Or you could use a climbing webbing sling. I found that for most exercises, I want it to be just about 3 feet long. So pick one of the exercises on this channel, hold your handle against the stop, and then do the motion. That's a way that anybody can do reverse action workouts with a normal cable machine or resistance band. I've ended up with 2 assemblies here, a big one. This one, depending on how it's configured, can have a maximum force of 100 pounds or 200 pounds with springs in parallel. And then I've also got this smaller one. This one ranges from 25 pounds if you just put 1 spring, or 50 pounds if you do 2. So each configuration, from 1 small spring to 2 small springs, to 1 big spring to 2 big springs, doubles the spring rate and the maximum force. If I'm gonna work out, I choose the smallest configuration that will still let me hit my target resistance. That's because spring rate determines how much more resistance it takes to extend the spring an additional unit of distance. That means that all else equal, a lower spring rate is better because as you start to fail and you're struggling to hold it against the stop, it prevents force from dropping off quickly. And the cool thing about this setup setup is that the total system length will always be identical. So it doesn't matter if you're using any of the 4 configurations I mentioned. It doesn't matter what you set resistance to within those configurations. When you pull the spring to the stop, the total distance of the system is always the same. That means you can do one consistent setup anywhere from 2 pounds all the way to 200 pounds of resistance. Let's go over how you can build this yourself. I'm going to include links to everything that you need in the description here, as well as options for folks outside of North America where you might not be able to use the identical hardware that I'm building. You're going to end up ordering industrial grade expansion springs, a cam buckle and webbing assembly, carabiners, quick links, and there will be a few 3D printed parts. The 3D printed parts are used to space the springs, but you can use aluminum as well. And there is also 3D printed parts to act as a case. And using 3D printed caps plus zip ties and fabric, you can create a shroud that expands with the springs. Ideally, you want 2 small springs and 2 big springs because that gives you the most flexibility. I recommend having 2 separate assemblies just like I do because that way you have extreme versatility. So that you don't have to tie your own knots and webbing, a Utah-based company called Rollercam has agreed to do custom orders for my audience. You'll use the link in the description. You'll order a pre-assembled high-quality webbing and cam buckle assembly, which is what you'll use to set the resistance, and it holds the whole rig together. They've agreed to waive the custom order fee for anybody who orders this setup before September 30th. And you can use my code RAFitness to get 10% off anything. So if you're looking for carabiners, tie-down straps for other purposes, or L-track for your own setup, you can buy it for them and get 10% off until the end of November. They're a great company who's been awesome to work with. So if you're looking to get any other tie-down straps or anything like that, use that code and get 10% off. So I recommend buying 2 sets of that custom assembly. And again, if you order before September 30th, they will batch make these all at once and you won't have to pay what's usually a $25 custom order fee. Now to get a setup that will let you switch between 1 spring by itself and 2 springs in parallel, that's where you're going to get different size quick links. These I've rated here are such that the difference in size will create about a 2.5-inch spread when the quick links share 1 mounting point and they're in parallel. Then you'll also need a spacer. Now, this isn't load bearing in the sense that we're not hanging 200 pounds of resistance on the spacer itself. Rather, what the spacer does is it takes the compressive force of the 2 longer quick links wanting to come towards the center. You can use a very simple 3D printed part that I've listed, or you can buy a small piece of aluminum. Aluminum is very easy to drill and it's lightweight, and then you can drill your own holes. I'll include a link to the STL files for this in the description, but you can also edit the variables on the model to use any set of quick links. One really crucial safety note that you should know with springs is you don't want to pull them past their max rated extension limit. So even if you buy springs other than what I've linked and you adjust the variables on my caps to make your own, or if you can't buy from Rollercam and you tie your own webbing knots, it's very important that you make sure that you never extend springs past what they're rated. In fact, it's good practice to tie a cord through either end of the spring. That's the length of its max extension. That way you can't extend it past. The danger here is the spring snapping and exploding into shrapnel that flies directly at your face. So the first thing you want to do once you get your springs is you want to wipe them off with a rag. That way you get any of the oils off from manufacturing. And then if you choose to make a case, you'll get the 3D printed caps. You'll slide them over. Then you'll get ripstop nylon fabric as well as some permanent double-sided fabric tape. And you'll see that the caps have grooves in them. Those are for zip ties. And you'll want about 1 inch of fabric overlap on either side of the zip ties. So for the big one, there's about a 2¼ inch gap between the zip tie spots. Add 1 inch overlap on each side, that's 4¼ and these springs extend about 9 inches. So you'll want to cut your fabric to about 11¼ to 11½ inches. And then you can roll the spring to see how much you need to cut in the other dimension. I'll say that having a little bit of extra fabric is actually good because of the way that it'll bunch up if you have the diameter of the fabric tube be a little bit more than the case. So once you've cut your fabric to side, you'll use double-sided fabric tape, and this will hold the fabric into a tube. Then you'll put your zip ties on, leaving an inch of overlap on either side. Tighten those down, cut off the excess, and then I like to line up the tab of the zip tie with the seam in the fabric, and then cut out a little bit of extra fabric. That way when you fold the fabric back the other way, you've left space for the zip tie tab. You'll use another length of double-sided tape on each side and fold it over. And there you go. Now you have a shroud that will bunch up when the spring is compressed, and it will expand as the spring expands. And you'll do this for all 4 springs. So that means you'll need 4 big caps, 4 small caps, and that'll give you cases for all of them. Now for the spacer. The simplest version of this assembly is just the Rollercam strap plus 1 spring with no case, which you can do. But again, I recommend you have 2 setups, one with 2 big springs, one with 2 small springs, and you use my spacer so that you can easily swap between big spring and small spring. So you'll want to thread all 3 quick links, the small one in the middle, then you'll slide the spacer over them, and then you'll take the strap that runs from one side to the other, put it through the outer quick links. And what this does is it makes it so that whether you're in a parallel configuration or a single configuration, this is going to keep the resistance close to double depending on where you set the strap. Finally, you can make markings so that you can quickly adjust the resistance. For this, you'll want a crane scale. The best cheap option is a Chinese crane scale that I will link. I have a 3D printed case that's less bulky for it since I use it for grip training. So you can pull out slack through the cam buckle and then put on a heavy duty piece of tape. Take a marker and mark your resistance lines for quick reference. Alternatively, you can just use the crane scale. Every time you pick up the spring, you can do a quick configuration to find exactly the resistance you're looking for. Both options work well, although if you're interested in really precise tracking, you'll want to use the crane scale to calibrate. And finally, you'll need a way to mount this. You can use a door anchor, which I'll link to in the description. You can use a sling. You can screw something into your wall. My preferred solution is L-track. That's because you can quickly and easily adjust it. These are aluminum tracks. And what I did was just take a real thin piece of plywood from the hardware store, rip it to length so that it spanned 3 studs, although you can make it more narrow. It just depends how much wall protection you want if you accidentally let go and the springs jet something towards your wall. And then I just used heavy duty lag screws through the middle of the L track, and that gives me a quick adjustable assembly. And I also took some marine vinyl fabric, which I'll link to, stretched it across the face of the plywood, and then stapled the back. Just a really simple upholstery. This is a super clean solution that gives you versatility. It works well for a workout room and it takes up minimal space. I'll also link to accessories and handles that you might want to get to use with this in case you don't already have cable attachments that'll fit your needs. And remember, you'll also need 2 carabiners per setup, one for your anchor and one for your handle attachment. I'm really excited to finally have this build guide out. I'm really excited that I was able to work with Rollercam to make this really easy, to not have to worry about tying your own knots or anything like that. As far as what's next, it was a definite sprint to get this initial library of content about reverse action workouts posted on the channel. The next project I think I'll tackle will be looking through some of the really insightful questions and objections folks have raised in response to what I've posted here. There's a lot that I'd love to say that I think will be really interesting, dive further into the theory here that it just didn't make sense to put as a comment. So be looking forward to a sort of Q&A next. And if you have anything you really want me to cover, go ahead and let me know now.